2 weeks I've been spending with the X2 Elite Extreme, and compared to my MacBook Pro with the M5 chip, performance-wise, on paper, it is very similar. Today, ladies and gentlemen, is April 9. I am still playing with my server. It's been an absolute joy for me. And not only have I been using the new ZenBook with the X2 Elite on it in order to program this beast, but I've been using it as my daily machine. And I guess I'm about to show you what the past 2 weeks have been like with this laptop. Instead of the MacBook, because actually this was the laptop that I was using as my daily before my Linux laptop came in. And now I've been using Linux for the past like 140 days, and I'm currently using Ubuntu, although I might switch into Fedora, and you guys probably don't care about any of this. But if you guys do, subscribe to the channel. So I've been spending the past 2 weeks with this laptop as my main laptop, and part of it really is, well, I've been kind of setting up this server and mostly playing with it. I've been mostly playing with it, to be honest. Now, you know what? I've realized something. I've realized that moving from a MacBook to a Windows laptop, or maybe Windows is probably all you know, which is completely fine. But I feel like those things are two things that people just overthink a lot, especially those who are not like super into tech and they just probably want something that just works for them. I actually saw a comment on Eve's channel, and there seems to be some people who are willing to move from like a MacBook Air to these new Snapdragon laptops. Snapdragon has been having some decent progress, and those type of people really like that. And so I thought I would just live with the ZenBook and just talk about my battery life experience and performance overall. So yeah. Let's talk about it. The day I unboxed this, the very first thing I did was run a battery charging test. I remember from like a 30% charge, it took about 30 minutes to reach 75%. And then you'll notice that from there, it takes longer to get to 85%. And then it takes almost like another 20 minutes to reach 95% and another 40 on top of that to reach 100%. Listen, I did kind of go hard off the bat to test this 100% charge. I wanted to see what this new Snapdragon X2 Elite Extreme could do for me. And for the most part, I spent a couple of hours installing tools to help me troubleshoot my server and troubleshooting some issues I had going on with Linux. So lots of ChatGPT for me, really, and lots of Chrome tabs playing a podcast in the background on YouTube. And from what we all know, technically, Qualcomm has been using this platform in order to compete against Apple. Like we all know it, Apple MacBooks are reliable, fast, silent, and have insane battery life. Well, the Snapdragon X2 Elite Extreme tries to also push those limits. This SoC, which stands for System on Chip, integrates an 18-core CPU, an Adreno X290 GPU, an NPU with up to 80 TOPS, and an LPDDR5X memory controller, all on a single 3nm chip. It's like Apple's silicon, really. And it all lives on an ARM-based architecture instead of an x86, which makes it challenging if you want to install Linux on it, which is why on my end, I was running WSL. And if you're the average consumer, I'm sorry, okay? You're probably wondering what in the world is this guy talking about? But what you need to know is that over 93% of the apps most users spend their time on, well, they now natively run on ARM. But for the techies,
the picture here is more blurred, I guess you can say. Like yes, WSL, which mimics running Linux on Windows, is now exceptionally fast on ARM, with file I/O is significantly improved compared to x86 WSL, and package compilation smoother than many Intel Ultrabooks. However, critical enterprise apps like SQL Server won't install without workarounds. Hyper-V lacks nested virtualization support, and even Visual Studio 2022 blocks many IDE extensions that remain x86 only. And also, well, native Linux support is just not a thing, right? So my development fun has mainly been very surface level, and more than anything, cloud-based, as I am having fun with AI agents. This really is more or less a laptop that sits in a gray area for professionals. You know what? Let me just get nerdy one last time about what I was doing during this battery charge.
I've just spent like the past 3 hours using the ZenBook to actually set up my new server. I was having a bit of a hard time trying to configure an IP address for it, but I finally figured it out. Now I'm not using the actual server to get things done. Instead, well, I'm using my ZenBook, and I am actually SSHing into it, so that's cool. Also, I've been treating this project as my guinea pig for a video that I'm currently making. And I mean, that's what I've done with this server. I've created a boiler template for any server, any Ubuntu server I ever create. So yeah, I mean, with the ZenBook, I've been actually trying to troubleshoot whether or not this boiler template works or doesn't work, and I've been just trying to edit it small bits here and there to perfect it, because essentially when I pull this repo, what happens is that with the help of a .sh file, a bootstrap file, I can go ahead and use that one file to install OpenWeb UI, Casa OS, Tailscale, Home Lab, VM, Virt Manager, so I can go ahead and install Windows 11 to run DaVinci Project Server. Anyways, with that one file, it does it all for me. So I've set that up, and I've been doing it with the ZenBook, and it's been fantastic. But yeah, currently, battery life, it's 4 p.m., and we are at 15%. Don't get me wrong, I still need to use this laptop to get more of a feel for it, and I've been pushing quite a bit today, but we're looking decent in terms of battery life. I think we need a few more tests. Currently, I'm working on a short form that I need to finish about the MacBook Neo, and I think what I'm going to do is that I'm going to use the ZenBook in order to edit the assets for that, and also I'm gonna edit it on DaVinci. I'm gonna finish that project on DaVinci.
So this is where I was going to test quite a few things on this laptop, including transfer speeds and also the latest version of DaVinci, which natively runs on ARM. Because at the end of the day, well, this is a laptop that should be able to rip through video editing. And funny enough, actually the first Gen X Elite failed at 422 hardware video encoding, and I'll get into that in a bit. Now, this does have a couple of USB-C 4 ports with support for display output, power delivery, and data speeds up to 40 gigabits per second. That same side also shares an HDMI 2.1 port and a headphone jack. Meanwhile, the other side, well, you have a USB-A port with data speeds up to 10 gigabits per second and an SD card slot 4.0. Now, this trackpad is very soft to the touch. I mean, it is glass coated, but there's nothing much to it. It is quite large, that I will say, but my personal preference still lies with MacBook trackpads. I actually think maybe something similar to what the MacBook Neo has now could have been good to see on a laptop like this. Now, the X2 Elite Extreme can now handle professional 422 footage, like S-Log from a Sony FX3, but playback-wise, it can be challenging when you have all of your colors on the timeline. But regardless, I really stuck to my word and I used this laptop that day while I was shooting a short form for the MacBook Neo. I remember while I was editing, I took a quick peek at the battery life, and at 8:45 a.m. I was at 77%. I transferred footage using the SD card all the way to my SSD connected to one of the USB-C 4 ports, and transferring about 6 gigabytes took about 3 minutes, which is slow, and it's normal because I'm writing to the external SSD. But if I was to transfer the same footage to the laptop itself, it's night and day faster. Like, it took about 20 seconds. Now, like I said, playback with color grading on the timeline can be rough. It's not the worst, but it's also not the best. It is choppy, and it does indeed lag. The best thing to do though is to edit your log footage as is, which will deliver great playback performance, and then you can apply your grades at the end. For export though, Apple still wins. The M series chips have dedicated hardware media engines built into the silicon itself, which the Snapdragon simply can't match because it mostly runs on software. However, the Lightroom experience is very up to par with a MacBook. Really, from importing pictures to editing them, it's a very flawless process. By the end of it all, as I was finishing my short form video, by 9:40 a.m. I was at 20%. In 1 hour, I consumed 57%.
Now I know a lot of you guys probably don't edit, and that's totally fine, but I've been gaming with this. I'm playing Overwatch currently, and I'm very impressed with, first of all, fan noise. I don't know if you guys can hear that. I've been gaming for like 30 minutes, but I'm also impressed with thermals, and I want to show you guys something real quick, but I'll talk about gaming later on. Let me show you. Like, this is more or less what you should expect after maybe a 30-minute session of gaming. That's where the laptop gets the hottest. I'm looking at like 48 degrees max. Yeah, I mean, pretty impressive for what it is, because it is one hell of a lightweight laptop and it's quite slim.
The A16 ZenBook is one hell of a sleek laptop. Probably the best looking laptop in the Windows lineup for me. And living with it, well, I've realized a few things. The top of the chassis is very different to the bottom in terms of texture and look. The one-hand opening with it is fantastic, especially for a 16-inch laptop. The hinges are nice and feel very smooth, but the screen, well, there's a bit of screen wobble. Not as bad as my P16, but it's still there. Inside, it's got a nice smooth finish. I did realize that it's got this black border all around the screen. It's like a rubber for protection, I guess, from what I understand. It almost goes all the way around, just not towards the back because that's where the hinge lives, right? And the feet, well, it gives it enough height to provide cooling on flat surfaces. It's not a laptop that gets really hot by any means. I mean, the back of it is actually really clean. Both rubber feet span across the laptop, and there's this big grill for those two fans to dissipate heat properly. It's very much a really good looking laptop, I must say. What's funny though is that I had a few issues docking this, but it turns out that it was all the ThinkPad's dock's fault. So ThinkPad docks, well, they kind of suck because they only work well with ThinkPad laptops. Now, I didn't install any drivers on the ZenBook, and I still managed to get it to work through USB-C and an HDMI cable. So it worked well, so the laptop easily supports dual monitors, so no need to worry about that. Unlike the MacBook Neo, I actually hate when Apple do that. But anyways, it is what it is. But yeah, my ZenBook, for the most part, has been living in this backpack with a bunch of stuff in it. And sometimes my camera that's got this metal cage, and the days pretty much went on like that. I remember running a really good video playback with some Chrome tabs battery test when I was building some furniture that we showcased last video. I had the ZenBook at full volume running a podcast and a PDF with IKEA instructions. I started building at around 4 p.m. with a battery life of 89%, and this is where I really saw how good battery life can be. As I was building, I was just, listening to my podcast. By 5:45 p.m., an hour and 45 minutes later, I had 60%. I still had lots of battery life left, which I was really happy with. And then that day, I decided to throw my laptop in the bag and run a battery dissipation test while on sleep mode. In fact, 2 days later, I opened my laptop for the first time to do some admin work, and I was at 48%. I had pretty much lost 12% in 48 hours while on sleep mode. And then, recently, I wanted to check out the wear and tear after almost 2 weeks of having this, because aside from this bag, the laptop has been in my back seats, my trunk, and then colliding with other materials and items non-stop, including sometimes metal. So yeah, anyways. But aluminum, okay? It's sturdy, I really have to say. A bit of a flex on top of the screen, but nothing alarming. While I was taking it apart, I did realize that it is easily to leave marks if you're not careful, but the good thing is that a lot of those marks come off super easily. My chassis was actually, well, pretty clean. Inside, you will find some speakers, obviously. I've been using these a lot, 6 super linear speakers. The audio could be a tad louder, I find, and I did realize that sometimes the audio can be distorted at higher volumes. The cooling system is this ultra thin light thermal solution. It actually does its job really well under light workloads. The noise kind of floats at around 25 decibels, like easily. And even during heavy workflows, well, it actually doesn't get that crazy loud. All these tests, well, they have been done on this 70 watt-hour battery. This laptop indeed has a single NVMe slot, so nothing else is upgradable.
Funny enough, there's been like a couple of times these past few weekends where I had to pop my laptop out while I'm in the car just to get some work done. And what I usually do is that I take my S26 Ultra, and then I don't know if you guys saw our weekend live with the S26 Ultra, but I can go right here and I can enable hotspot, which is one of the quick access toggles that I have on my phone. It's pretty good. And with that, I usually take the laptop, look at these scratches at the camera and all the metal stuff they create. This is what I was talking about. You guys see that? Like right there. Yeah. Oh, and right here, I don't know if you guys can tell, but some of the metal is showing. I actually hit it a bit too hard. That was my fault. Anyways, as I was saying, I usually take my laptop, I connect to hotspot, and then I just connect to Parsec, so I can actually just control my computer that has all the files I need, and that lives, well, obviously in the studio. Anyways, all of this to say that this Asus Lumina OLED panel is pretty good if you want to work outside. I actually really like it. Like, it's got plenty of brightness, really. Look, it's really good. It's nice. It's also touch, so yeah, that's cool. And obviously we've been starting to see a lot more touch panels that output 120 hertz, which is super nice, and the color reproduction on the screen is amazing. You know what, let me talk about this display and then I'll talk about gaming performance. Why don't we just do that?
Yep, pretty much been using this 16-inch 3K Lumina OLED panel running at 120 Hz and pushing 500 nits in SDR. 500 nits that don't really look like 500 nits, maybe more like 600 to 700. I mean, at the end of the day, it does have around 1100 nits in peak brightness. I also like that it's flicker-free dimming. It's not a panel that is supposed to give you headaches after hours of work. There's also no glow or fringing around text like you sometimes get on cheaper OLED panels. It reproduces accurate and vibrant colors with deep contrast and true blacks. But I've noticed that during YouTube playback, the colors can sometimes take a moment to fully kick in. And it's not just with this laptop, but I've realized that with my G14 and P16 as well. Could be an Asus panel thing. Talking about the G14, screen reflectivity is very similar to the old G14 minus that purple tint it had. There is glare on this OLED panel similar to that laptop, but compared to the newer OLED gaming panel on the G14, it's not as good. Which brings me to talk about one thing you can't really do on a MacBook gaming. So the other day I was actually installing the Xbox dashboard on this. I was actually just trying to play with it overall. I was scouting for some good titles and trying to install some games. I genuinely just wanted to see how much I could push this laptop in terms of gaming. Forza was the one game that truly surprised me and excited me because we're pretty much 36 days away from Horizon 6, and if you can play that on this, the ZenBook will then deliver one hell of an overall computing experience. On Forza, for example, you can easily achieve 60 frames per second on medium to low settings. I was pretty impressed by the graphics and the performance this showed. The only thing is that gaming with Snapdragon is not totally stable. Like when I tried to play Fallout Vegas, I started playing with a battery life of about 59%, but you see tons of little glitches, like the Pip-Boy wouldn't render properly at all. Or Fortnite, for example, a game that I was very much enjoying playing for a bit until, well, it crashed. I am, however, impressed with the performance output when things are stable. I played No Man's Sky with it and it turned out to be completely okay and stable for the most part. And all of this, by the way, in best performance. I also played Overwatch. Overwatch was actually one title that was pretty darn stable. It's the one game I was able to enjoy playing at 120Hz with medium graphics. It was a game that was outputting between 80 to 100 frames per second constantly. However, my gaming session from that 59% did not last long. In fact, after an hour, my laptop died. But do note that I wasn't gaming for that entire hour because, well, like I mentioned, I was running into a few crashes and hiccups along the way. The good thing is that, well, we will start seeing more and more improvements in compatibility, especially with AAA games, so I guess that's a good sign for ARM.
Listen, both laptops are fantastic. I mean, just comparing the MacBook Pro with the M5 chip to the ZenBook with now the X2 Elite, it's very impressive. The single core scores and multi-core scores, if I compare them both, right, if I compare the ZenBook to the MacBook, they're extremely similar. And not only is the CPU very similar in terms of performance, but also on paper, the GPU is also very similar. Now, the really cool thing with the ZenBook is that you can actually game with this, and I find it so cool. That is so cool. Now, not all the games are stable. You can't expect for all the games to be stable, but the fact that you can still enjoy something like Overwatch and the graphics are quite smooth and the FPS that it's outputting is very good on this machine is awesome. It's something you can't do on the MacBook. I feel like Snapdragon is slowly catching up. It's still not perfect. I mean, there still needs to be a lot of applications within some niches that need some compatibility fixes, and that would be super awesome to see. For the everyday user, you are getting a really good laptop. I do feel, however, that battery life could be a bit overblown. On paper, it's not as good as it should be compared to what they're stating. It could be better. It's not like the MacBook, in my opinion. The MacBook has really good battery life. This has good battery life compared to everything else out there in the Windows space, but it could be better. And I'm sure with some software adjustment and just tweaking, I feel like Snapdragon in general will get there. Because don't forget, this is their high-tier CPU delivering the best performance that they can deliver to you and trying to make sure that battery life still remains decent, which I think they've accomplished, but again, it could be better. Oh, also, don't forget that you're running an OLED display on the ZenBook, and part of that is the reason as to why battery life dissipates quicker. It's a touch display, 120Hz, OLED, the colors are amazing. So that also plays a role in the whole battery dissipation story. But yeah, I mean, you guys let me know what you think. I mean, for a laptop that comes with 48 gigabytes of RAM, you know how RAM is extremely expensive now. It's awesome. It's awesome to see because this is a laptop. This MacBook is a laptop that comes with 16 gigabytes of RAM. So you're getting 48 right here. You let me know. Let me know what you guys think. I know it's like everyone's talking about the X2 Elite right now, and there's so much information out there. I just wanted to make a video that will allow me to live with this computer and actually show you what it can do and not just talk about numbers on paper. And hopefully, I was able to deliver.